Alright, I'm back again, and this is quite possibly a controversial video that may get me a strike on YouTube. I don't think it will on BitChute, but it's a very valid, relevant question, I do believe. And this was a question that was posed by someone I know. And that question is, why is it there were people calling what happened with the BLM riots, and that's what they were. Why do they refer to that as terrorism, but not what happened in Nashville as terrorism? That is a very relevant question. So I'm going to take a few moments to explain that. Why, at least to my knowledge, based off of what I know, at 4:45 p.m. Eastern Time on December 30th, 2020. There may have been some additional information come out regarding the motive. At this time, it was still not necessarily clear. We'll put it like that. There was no, at the time of this video, as far as I know, there's been no official declaration as to the motive behind what happened in Nashville on Christmas Day. And like I said, I'll have a link. The link is to one of my extra most favoriteest websites that helped me get through a couple classes in college, the Cornell Law School website. I will recommend you look at the domestic terrorism section, because that's the one most applicable. There are three main prongs as far as requirements go to be considered as terrorism. The first is it must be a dangerous act to the human lives, or pretty much be a criminal act, a violent criminal act, basically. That's the first prong. The second prong is there has to be an intent to intimidate and coerce, whether you're intimidating the public or trying to intimidate the government, especially the United States government, into enacting certain policies, trying to either instill fear or change or influence policies. And the third one is it has to take place in territory or lands of, owned by the United States government, if you will, inside the United States borders, or the borders of a territory, something along that effects. When we look at the riots and looting and the burning of cities that took place over the summer, we can see that, yes, that was definitely a violent act. Yes, there was a certain degree of desire to coerce people to a certain extent, and there's definitely an attempt to intimidate and affect the policy of the United States government, and it took place inside the borders. So under those criteria, what happened with BLM can be considered, in this particular instance, domestic terrorism. I do not believe it would be a huge stretch to do so. When we look at what happened in Nashville, was it a destructive, violent act? Yes, it was. Now, in the definition, it does mention about harming lives of others. He literally went out of his way to tell people to leave the area. So that tells me that was not his intent. But it was still a violent act, so I will still give that first prong to him. And I can definitely give the prong that it happened in land controlled or territory controlled by the United States. I can give that one. The question is, was the actions done with the intent and purpose to intimidate and coerce either the people or the United States government, or to affect the policy of the United States government? At this time, unless something has changed contrary to my knowledge, like I said, at now 4:49 p.m. Eastern Time, December 30th, 2020, to my knowledge, a motive has not been declared. Because of no motive, that last prong is in the air if we can consider this terrorism. It could just be he had a personal vendetta against AT&T, because there are talks that he believed that AT&T's network gave his father dementia and led to his father's death, supposedly. I have not seen definitive proof that that was a part of it at this time. There may be something out there I have not seen, or a new development. Or there may be something that comes up after the fact of this video. I'm asking you, please, for the love of God, don't hold against me something that came up after the fact. Based off of the information available to me at the time of the recording of this video, that's what I'm basing it off of. No motive has been declared. So maybe he just had a personal vendetta against AT&T. He thought that what they did was the cause of his father's issues, and he may even try to blame it as for his health issues, because supposedly he had cancer. It could be he just went off his ever-loving rocker. Or it could be he was trying to be some sort of martyr for the cause against 5G or whatever. Honestly, I don't know. I would expect, and this is why this is iffy. Personally, I would expect a martyr for a cause, someone with an agenda like that, to try and coerce the government or whatever. Where's his manifesto? When you think of like the shooter in, what was it, Norway? He had a manifesto. That Dylan Roof, a bit of a manifesto, if I do recall. So many times you do see, or pretty much the overwhelming majority of the time, if they have a message to intimidate, they will tell you specifically, this is why I'm doing this. Otherwise, unless they're just not all there, or they just think it's assumed everyone will get the message, there's the possibility the message would get lost. If he was going against, say, 5G, we don't know that at this time. It definitely was a deliberate attack. It definitely was well planned out, because it has come out that his girlfriend at the time notified the police in 2019, a year ahead of events, that he was making bombs in said RV. Can't make this up. So the fact, because all three prongs are not met, I personally am not comfortable in considering this terrorism. Matter of fact, since he only directed his attack at AT&T, which supposedly is where his father worked, it leads me, and there was no manifesto to say otherwise, I'm wondering if there was not some sort of personal vendetta against AT&T. If it is, said vendetta was lost by the fact that he did not provide any information to base it off of. We don't know why he did what he did, at least at this time. Gotta throw this out because I know how the internet works. Someone will come back 6 months from now if the video is still around and go, oh, now we know, or that's not true, that's not true. Look at the time and date stamp, or at least a date stamp. But now, like I said, if they come out and they can find some sort of, or they release, because it's possible they have that information already, but if they actually release a definitive motive, or if they've already done it and I just haven't seen it yet, saying this is why, and it is was definitely a means by which to coerce the government. I can't talk today. I would very much, I'll be first in line and say, yep, domestic terrorism all day, every day. But until they do that, I don't feel comfortable declaring that just yet because the legal definition has not been met. Anyway, like I said, I'll have a link or two in the description below. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with what I'm considering, or my stance on it? Or am I being a little too literal and black and white on the matter? Is this a situation where there's enough gray area, or where the gray area needs to be taken into consideration as to whether or not it can be defined otherwise? That's another question I just came up with. Like I said, let me know below. Thank you. Later.